Most people walk through life believing that what they see on the surface is the truth. They trust smiles, believe kind words, and assume that people are transparent. Machiavelli would say this is your first and most dangerous mistake. To survive, to succeed, and to gain power in this world, you must learn to read people beyond their words, beyond their expressions, and beyond their masks. You must train your mind to see what others hide, to feel what they do not say, and to understand human nature in its rawest form. People rarely show you who they truly are. They present a carefully crafted version of themselves based on what they want you to think. Some want to appear kind, some want to look powerful, some want to seem innocent, and some want to look trustworthy. But behind every action is a motive, and behind every motive is a deeper psychological need. Machiavelli taught that if you want to navigate the world effectively, you must stop listening only to words and start observing behavior, patterns, and contradictions. When you meet someone, do not rush to judge them by their first impression. Pay attention to how they speak, not just what they say. Notice their tone, their pace, and their confidence. A person who speaks too smoothly may be hiding something. A person who avoids eye contact may be concealing guilt or insecurity. A person who over-explains may be trying too hard to convince you. Every detail is a clue, and every clue leads you closer to the truth. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in reading people. When you stop talking and simply observe, people reveal themselves naturally. They become uncomfortable, they fill the silence, and in doing so, they expose their thoughts, their fears, and their intentions. Machiavelli believed that those who speak less and observe more always hold the advantage. The quiet listener sees everything, while the loud talker gives everything away. You must also learn to study body language. The human body communicates even when the mouth lies. A person who says they are happy but clenches their jaw is holding back anger. A person who says they agree but crosses their arms is resisting. A person who smiles too widely may be masking resentment. These small signals are windows into the mind, and if you train yourself to recognize them, you will never be easily deceived. Another key lesson is to watch how people treat others when they have no power over them. Many people are polite to their superiors but cruel to those beneath them. This reveals their true character. A person who respects everyone regardless of status is likely genuinely honorable. A person who is kind only when it benefits them is strategic and potentially dangerous. Machiavelli warned that you should never fully trust someone until you have seen how they behave when they gain power or lose it. People's reactions under pressure are also deeply revealing. When things are calm, anyone can pretend to be composed. But when stress hits, the mask falls. Some people panic, some become aggressive, some shut down, and some remain calculated. By observing how someone behaves in difficult moments, you understand their real nature. Strength, weakness, loyalty, and betrayal all surface in times of crisis. You must also listen to what people avoid saying. Often, what someone does not talk about is more important than what they openly discuss. If someone constantly changes the subject when a certain topic arises, they may be hiding something. If they speak in vague terms instead of specifics, they may be trying to manipulate the narrative. Silence, hesitation, and avoidance are just as telling as direct speech. Machiavelli emphasized that you should never let people know you are analyzing them. If they realize you are reading them, they will alter their behavior and become harder to understand. Your observation must be subtle, patient, and invisible. You should appear relaxed, friendly, and uninterested, while your mind quietly processes every detail. Another powerful technique is to observe patterns over time. One conversation is not enough to truly understand someone. People may act differently depending on mood, environment, or personal interests, but consistent behavior over weeks or months reveals their true personality. If someone repeatedly lies, avoids responsibility, or seeks validation, these are not accidents, but traits. You must also understand that people often project their own fears and desires onto others. A person who constantly accuses others of betrayal may secretly be untrustworthy themselves. A person who mocks ambition may be hiding their own jealousy. By recognizing projection, you gain deeper insight into their psychological state. Machiavelli believed that power comes from knowledge, and knowledge comes from understanding human nature. The more you understand people, the less likely you are to be manipulated, deceived, or controlled. You become the one who sees the game while others are trapped inside it. However, reading people is not about becoming cold or cynical. It is about becoming wise. It allows you to protect yourself, choose the right allies, and avoid dangerous individuals. It gives you clarity in a world full of deception. You must also learn to read yourself. Your own emotions, biases, and weaknesses can cloud your judgment. If you are too trusting, you may be exploited. If you are too suspicious, you may isolate yourself unnecessarily. Balance is key. Machiavelli taught that the strongest mind is one that is both cautious and perceptive. When you master the art of reading people, you move through the world with quiet confidence. You no longer react impulsively because you already understand what others are likely to do. You speak less, observe more, and act only when necessary. In social situations, you become the one who understands everyone while no one truly understands you. This is the essence of Machiavellian intelligence. You are not loud, yet you are powerful. You are not aggressive, yet you are respected. You are not feared, yet you are never underestimated. Ultimately, to read people without them knowing is to see reality as it truly is, not as it is presented. It is to peel back layers of illusion and recognize human nature in its purest form. Those who master this skill do not just survive in the world, they rise above it, shaping their destiny with clarity, strategy, and unshakable control. You begin to realize that every interaction is a subtle exchange of power, even when it does not look like one. People are constantly testing, judging, and positioning themselves, whether consciously or unconsciously. Some seek validation, some seek dominance, some seek protection, and some seek control. The moment you understand this, you stop taking things personally and start seeing them strategically. One of the deepest truths Machiavelli would highlight is that most people are predictable in their unpredictability. They believe they are unique, but they are driven by the same fundamental desires: recognition, security, pleasure, and influence. When you learn to recognize which desire dominates a person, you can anticipate their actions before they even take them. A person hungry for recognition will chase praise. A person obsessed with security will avoid risk. A person driven by power will manipulate situations in their favor. You must train your mind to think in layers. Do not just ask what someone is doing, ask why they are doing it, and then ask why that reason matters to them. Behind every surface-level explanation is a deeper, psychological motive. When you can see that, people become like open books to you, even if they believe they are completely hidden. There is also immense power in emotional control. People reveal themselves most when emotions are involved. If you remain calm while others react, you gain the upper hand. Anger exposes weakness. Defensiveness exposes insecurity. Excessive excitement exposes desperation. By staying composed, you not only protect yourself, but also create a psychological imbalance where others feel transparent in your presence. Machiavelli would remind you that trust is one of the most dangerous illusions. Most people trust too quickly because they fear loneliness or rejection. But true understanding of human nature teaches patience. You do not need to rush into trust. You observe first, analyze second, and decide last. Those who rush emotionally often become victims of their own naivety. You also learn that people reveal their true priorities through their actions, not their promises. Someone may say they care about you, but if their behavior consistently shows neglect, their words are meaningless. Someone may claim loyalty, but if they disappear when things get difficult, their loyalty was never real. The world rewards those who judge by actions rather than empty speech. As you sharpen this skill, you start noticing subtle manipulations that others completely miss. Flattery used to gain favor for... Silence used to avoid responsibility. Victimhood used to gain sympathy. Dominance used to intimidate. You see these tactics clearly, and because you see them, they lose their power over you. You also begin to understand that people fear what they cannot read. If you remain unpredictable, composed, and observant, others will hesitate before trying to deceive or undermine you. They sense that you are not like the rest, that you are always watching, always thinking, always aware. This creates a quiet form of authority that does not need to be loud. However, true mastery is not about using this knowledge to harm others. It is about using it to navigate life wisely. You choose better friends, avoid toxic individuals, recognize hidden threats, and align yourself with those who genuinely support your growth. You do not become colder, you become clearer. With time, you develop an almost instinctive ability to read people. You notice microexpressions, tone shifts, behavioral inconsistencies, and emotional patterns without even consciously trying. Your mind becomes a powerful instrument that processes human behavior like a well-trained strategist, and in this state, you move differently through the world. You are not easily impressed, easily offended, or easily manipulated. You understand that most people act out of their conditioning, their fears, and their desires. This understanding gives you patience, strength, and control. Machiavelli would say that knowledge of human nature is the ultimate form of power. It does not rely on wealth, status, or physical strength. It relies on perception, awareness, and psychological insight. Those who master it do not need to force their will upon the world. They simply position themselves so that the world moves in their favor. In the end, reading people without them knowing is not just a skill, it is a mindset. It is the discipline of seeing beyond appearances, the wisdom of understanding motives, and the power of staying one step ahead without ever revealing your hand. Those who walk this path do not merely exist in society, they rise above it, shaping their reality with clarity, precision, and quiet mastery. As this awareness deepens, you start to see social interactions like a chessboard rather than a chaotic crowd of emotions. Every move people make has a reason, even if they themselves are not fully conscious of it. Some moves are driven by ego, some by fear, some by ambition, and some by insecurity. When you can identify these forces at play, you are no longer reacting blindly. You are observing, calculating, and understanding. You also begin to notice how environment shapes behavior. A person may act confident in a familiar setting, but shrink in an unfamiliar one. Someone may appear humble in private, but arrogant in front of an audience. These shifts reveal how much of their identity depends on external validation rather than inner strength. Machiavelli would say that those who depend on approval are easily controlled, while those who remain steady, regardless of environment, are truly powerful. Another subtle truth is that people often test boundaries before they fully engage with you. They may make small disrespectful comments, push your limits, or subtly challenge your authority. How you respond in these early moments determines how they will treat you in the future. If you allow small disrespect, they will escalate. If you calmly establish your boundaries, they will think twice before crossing them again. Reading people means recognizing these tests and responding with quiet firmness rather than emotional reaction. You also learn to distinguish between confidence and arrogance. True confidence is calm, measured, and unbothered. Arrogance, on the other hand, is loud, defensive, and desperate to prove itself. When someone constantly brags, interrupts, or belittles others, they are usually covering deep insecurity. Understanding this prevents you from being intimidated by appearances and allows you to see the weakness beneath the mask. As you sharpen your perception, you become highly sensitive to inconsistencies. You notice when someone's words do not match their tone, when their smile does not reach their eyes, or when their body language contradicts their statements. These inconsistencies are not random. They are cracks in their psychological armor. The more cracks you see, the clearer their true nature becomes. You also realize that most conflicts between people arise from misreading intention. Someone may act distant not because they dislike you, but because they are struggling internally. Someone may act harsh not because they are cruel, but because they are afraid of being hurt. Reading people accurately allows you to navigate relationships with greater wisdom instead of reacting out of ego or assumption. Machiavelli would remind you that while understanding people gives you power, restraint gives you control. Just because you can see someone's weaknesses does not mean you should exploit them. The truly intelligent person knows when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. Power is not about constant action. It is about strategic timing. Though, over time, this way of thinking changes how you move through life. You become less reactive, less emotional, and more observant. You do not rush into arguments because you already understand where the other person is coming from. You do not chase validation because you see how fragile it truly is. You do not fear rejection because you recognize it as a reflection of others, not of your worth. People may begin to sense that you are different, even if they cannot explain why. You listen more than you speak, you observe more than you react, and you rarely reveal your inner thoughts. This creates an aura of mystery that makes others cautious around you. They feel that you cannot be easily deceived, and so they hesitate before trying. At the highest level, reading people becomes almost instinctive. You no longer need to consciously analyze every interaction. Your mind automatically picks up on patterns, motives, and hidden emotions. You develop what some might call intuition, but in reality, it is simply a deeply trained awareness of human behavior. And in this state, you gain a rare form of freedom. You are not controlled by others' opinions, manipulated by their words, or trapped by their expectations. You understand the game of human interaction so clearly that you can choose when to play and when to step back. Machiavelli would say that those who master this art do not just move through the world, they shape it. They see what others miss, understand what others fear, and act where others hesitate. They do not seek power for its own sake, but they naturally command respect through their clarity, composure, and insight. Ultimately, to read people without them knowing is to see life as it truly is, complex, strategic, emotional, and deeply human. It is to walk with awareness in a world of illusion, to remain steady in a sea of chaos, and to hold quiet power without ever needing to announce it. The deeper you go into this way of seeing, the more you recognize how rarely people are honest even with themselves. Many of their beliefs, reactions, and decisions come from conditioning, trauma, pride, or unexamined habits. They think they are choosing freely, yet they are often slaves to their own emotions. When you understand this, you stop being shocked by betrayal, surprised by selfishness, or shaken by deception. Instead, you see them as part of human nature. You begin to notice how people seek power in subtle ways. Some try to dominate conversations by speaking louder or interrupting. Others seek control by playing the victim and making others feel guilty. Some use humor to mask their insecurity, while others use silence to create psychological pressure. These are not random behaviors. They are strategies, often unconscious, for gaining influence or protecting themselves. Your own presence also starts to change. Because you are no longer desperate to be liked or feared, you carry yourself with a calm certainty that unsettles others. You do not need to perform, impress, or prove anything. This quiet confidence makes people reveal more around you than they intend, because they feel seen but cannot quite understand how deeply you are observing. You also learn the importance of timing. Sometimes the best way to read someone is to wait. Let them speak, act, and expose themselves over time. Rushing to conclusions makes you blind. Patience, however, gives you clarity. Machiavelli believed that those who master patience master power because they act only when they truly understand the situation. Another powerful realization is that people's greatest strengths are often tied to their greatest weaknesses. A highly charismatic person may rely too much on charm and lack discipline. A deeply disciplined person may struggle with emotional intelligence. A generous person may be vulnerable to manipulation. By seeing this duality, you understand that no one is completely powerful or completely weak. They are simply human. As your perception sharpens, you also become better at protecting your energy. You recognize toxic patterns early and distance yourself before they drain you. You identify genuine people quickly and invest in them wisely. You no longer waste time trying to fix those who do not want to change or impress those who will never respect you. People may mistake your silence for indifference, but in reality, it is your greatest strength. While others react emotionally, you observe strategically. While others argue impulsively, you analyze quietly. This difference gives you a powerful psychological edge in every interaction. You also understand that perception shapes reality. If people believe you are strong, composed, and unreadable, they treat you with caution and respect. If they believe you are weak, desperate, or predictable, they take advantage of you. By mastering how you present yourself, without lying, but without revealing too much, you shape how the world responds to you. Machiavelli would remind you that true intelligence is not about manipulating others at every turn, but about understanding when manipulation is happening around you. The goal is not to control people, but to avoid being controlled by them. Over time, you start to see life less as a struggle and more as a carefully navigated path. You choose your battles wisely, your alliances carefully, and your responses strategically. O life, you are no longer reactive to every slight, every insult, or every challenge because you see the deeper motives behind them. People may call you mysterious, cold, or distant, but they also sense your strength. They know, even if they cannot explain why, that you are not someone to be easily fooled, disrespected, or manipulated. At the highest level of this mastery, reading people becomes second nature. You move through conversations effortlessly, seeing beneath the surface while remaining completely composed. You understand human nature so deeply that you rarely feel surprised, only confirmed. And in this state, you gain something rare. Inner power. Yeah, inner power. Not the loud power of dominance, but the quiet power of clarity. You are not at the mercy of others' emotions, opinions, or actions. You stand steady, aware, and in control of yourself. To read people without them knowing is ultimately to understand the invisible currents that move the world: desire, fear, ambition, and ego. Those who see these currents clearly do not drown in them. They learn to navigate them with wisdom, restraint, and quiet authority.